Chinonso didn't see it coming. One quiet evening after dinner, Nnamdi sat across from her with a strange look in his eyes. He wasn't smiling. "We need to talk," he said. Her heart skipped. That sentence always meant something bad. I don't think this is working anymore," he continued, avoiding her eyes. "You've changed, Chinonso. You've become boring. Everything feels routine with you." She stared at him, confused. "What do you mean boring? We've built a life together." He shrugged, emotionless. "I need excitement. You're always focused on work responsibilities. I miss the fun." Then came the real blow. "I've met someone else. Her name is Adaeze. She's young, full of life, and she actually listens to me." It felt like someone knocked the air out of Chinonso's lungs. For a moment she couldn't breathe. She just sat there, stunned, while Nnamdi stood up and grabbed his keys like it was just another day. He left without looking back. Chinonso didn't cry right away. She just sat still, numb, trying to understand what just happened. They'd been together for 5 years. They talked about marriage. She believed in them. She believed in him. That night, everything shattered. Her confidence. Her plans. Her heart. She finally broke down at 2 a.m., hugging a pillow like it could hold her together. She wasn't just heartbroken. She felt discarded. Replaced. Like she wasn't enough. And in that darkness, one quiet thought settled in her chest. Maybe this was the end of love, but the beginning of something else. Chinonso woke up the next morning feeling like a ghost of herself. Her eyes were puffy, her chest heavy. The pain of Nnamdi's betrayal still clung to her like thick smoke. But deep down, something had shifted. She knew she couldn't stay stuck in that heartbreak forever. If she didn't move, she'd drown in it. So she got up, took a deep breath, and told herself, start somewhere. She packed her bags and left their shared apartment in Abuja. Lagos was calling, loud, messy, fast-paced Lagos. It wasn't an easy decision, but she needed space. Space from the memories. From the pain. From people who kept asking what happened, with pity in their eyes. Lagos didn't welcome her with open arms. The city was harsh, unforgiving, and expensive. She stayed with her cousin in a cramped 2-bedroom flat, sleeping on a thin mattress on the floor. It wasn't ideal, but it was a beginning. With her degree in business administration, Chinonso started applying for jobs like her life depended on it. And in many ways it did. She needed something, anything to ground her. After weeks of rejection emails and silence, she finally got a call. A mid-sized corporate firm needed an admin officer. The pay wasn't great, but it was honest work. She said yes without thinking twice. Every morning she woke up at 5 a.m. to beat traffic. She squeezed into crowded buses, holding her bag tight to her chest. She wore the same 2 work outfits in rotation, ironing them carefully every night. She was quiet in the office, kept her head down, and did her work with quiet determination. Some days she cried on the way home, exhausted, lonely, and unsure if she made the right decision. But she kept going. Because deep down, she was building something. Maybe others couldn't see it yet, but Chinonso knew. She wasn't the broken girl anymore. She was the girl who got up. And though the pieces of her life were still scattered, she was learning how to pick them up, one day, one job, one breath at a time. Chinonso didn't just want to survive anymore, she wanted to grow. The pain of her past still lingered, but she was tired of carrying it like a shadow. One evening after work, she looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was rough, her eyes looked tired, and her clothes felt like they belonged to someone else. That was the night she made a decision. "I need to find me again," she whispered. The next weekend, she walked into a salon and chopped off her relaxed hair. She went natural, bold, free, and beautiful. The barber gave her a low cut, neat and fresh. For the first time in a long time, she smiled genuinely at her reflection. She looked different. She looked awake. She didn't stop there. Chinonso started saving a small portion of her salary every month. Instead of buying new clothes, she signed up for online courses, digital marketing, project management, even emotional intelligence. She'd stay up late, watching videos, reading materials, taking notes. It wasn't easy, especially after long hours at the office, but she kept pushing. Her hunger to improve was stronger than her tiredness. She also started taking better care of her health. Morning walks, more water, less junk food. She joined a small gym close to her house and went twice a week. The glow-up wasn't just physical, it was emotional, mental, spiritual. She prayed more, journaled often, and reminded herself daily, I am not who they left behind. Slowly, people around her began to notice. Her skin cleared up. Her smile returned. Even her walk changed, more confident, more grounded. At work, she started speaking up more in meetings. Her ideas got attention. Her boss began trusting her with bigger tasks. She no longer felt invisible. Every time she looked in the mirror now, she didn't just see beauty, she saw strength. She saw a woman who had been broken but refused to stay broken. A woman who turned her pain into power. Chinonso was no longer healing in silence. She was becoming. And the world was starting. Chinonso didn't plan to become a boss, but life had other ideas. What started as a simple admin job soon turned into something bigger. She kept learning, growing, and showing up with excellence. Her work spoke for her. She didn't need to shout. Her results did the talking. In just 2 years, Chinonso got promoted twice. First to operations assistant, then to project coordinator. She was finally earning enough to move out of her cousin's place and rent a small apartment of her own. It was modest, but it was hers. She bought a second-hand desk, a vision board, and a little plant she named Hope. Every evening she sat at that desk and dreamed of bigger things. She started helping friends write CVs, organize business plans, and prepare for job interviews. First, it was just a side hustle. But the demand kept growing. People were recommending her left and right. She was good at what she did, clear, confident, and full of insight. One Sunday afternoon, while sipping Gary and groundnuts, the thought hit her hard. What if I made this official? What if I started my own thing? It was scary. Who would believe in her? Who would fund it? But fear wasn't new to Chinonso, and neither was starting from scratch. She registered a small consulting firm online, built a free website, and reached out to former colleagues and clients. Slowly, the jobs started coming in. Small businesses, young professionals, NGOs. Everyone needed structure. And Chinonso delivered. She hired 2 interns, then a team of 3. She trained them personally, firm, kind, professional. Her company's name began to show up in business circles, LinkedIn posts, and online reviews. Clients praised her for being thorough, warm, and dependable. One day, she stood in her new office, glass walls, proper chairs, even a coffee machine, and smiled to herself. Not long ago, she was crying in the dark, wondering if she'd ever feel whole again. Now people looked up to her. She had built something real, something powerful. Years had passed. Chinonso's company had grown bigger than she ever imagined. Her consulting firm now had clients across Nigeria, and even a few outside the country. She had an actual HR team, stylish offices, and a logo that people respected. Chinonso had become the woman she once dreamed of, calm, focused, and fully in charge of her life. One Thursday morning, her HR manager walked into her office holding a CV. "Ma, we've got a candidate who seems qualified for the assistant strategy role. Can you take a look?" Chinonso took the file casually, but the moment she saw the name, her heart skipped. Adaeze Okonkwo. The same Adaeze. The girl Nnamdi left her for. The one who once laughed at her behind her back. The one who was more fun, more exciting. Not boring. Chinonso blinked twice to be sure it wasn't her mind playing tricks. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even hurt. She felt nothing. Just a quiet kind of surprise. "She's coming in for an interview tomorrow," HR added. "Okay," Chinonso said softly. "Let her come." The next day, Chinonso didn't attend the interview. She watched through the glass from her office as Adaeze sat nervously in the waiting area, holding her file tightly. Her makeup looked slightly rushed, her shoes a bit worn out. Chinonso could tell life hadn't been easy. The interview panel liked Adaeze. She was smart, she had experience, and she was eager to work. When the feedback came in, Chinonso approved the hire without saying a word. No one in the office knew the backstory. She didn't need to explain anything. A week later, Adaeze resumed work, still unaware of who the CEO truly was. She had seen Chinonso's name in emails, but it hadn't clicked yet. And Chinonso? She walked past Adaeze a few times in the hallway, calm and composed. No glares, no drama. Just quiet power. Hiring her wasn't revenge. It was a reminder to herself that she had truly moved on. She had nothing to prove. No need for petty payback. She was the boss now. At first, Adaeze was excited about the new job. The office was clean, modern, and full of young, smart professionals. Everyone seemed busy but focused. She told herself this was her fresh start, a chance to get back on her feet after everything she had lost. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. The workload was intense. The deadlines were strict. The meetings were fast-paced and the expectations were high. Adaeze found herself struggling to keep up. She missed small details in emails, forgot to follow up on tasks, and fumbled during team presentations. Her confidence, once loud and bold, began to fade. Meanwhile, Chinonso moved through the office like a quiet storm, graceful, firm, and respected. Every time she walked into a room, people sat up straighter. She spoke calmly, but everyone listened. Her presence wasn't loud, but it was powerful. She didn't need to raise her voice. Her results had already spoken for her. Adaeze began to notice her more. The name Chinonso is on documents, on office memos, on company-wide emails. It slowly started to click. The face looked familiar. The name? Too familiar. And one afternoon, during a general meeting where Chinonso addressed the entire staff, it hit her fully. That was the Chinonso. The woman she once took Nnamdi from. The woman she had mocked. Laughed about. Judged. Now that same woman was her boss, sitting in the CEO's chair, commanding the room with quiet elegance. Adaeze couldn't focus. The weight of it all sank in. She, the girl who once felt like the winner, was now struggling to keep her job in a company run by the woman she once saw as boring. But Chinonso never said a word about the past. She didn't treat Adaeze badly. No cold looks. No special treatment. Just professionalism. And that somehow made it worse. Adaeze was drowning in the pressure. Chinonso was thriving in purpose. That's the thing about karma, it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it shows up in a quiet office wearing heel. Nnamdi never imagined his life would turn out this way. At first, everything with Adaeze was exciting. She was fun, spontaneous, and full of energy. They traveled, partied, and laughed a lot. But the laughter didn't last. The money started to dry up. His business deals kept failing, and Adaeze began to complain more than she smiled. The spark that once brought them together slowly faded. Eventually, Adaeze left, just like he once did to Chinonso. Now Nnamdi was broke, living in a tiny apartment with rent piling up and no stable job. His phone barely rang anymore. His friends had moved on. The silence was loud. One evening, out of boredom and regret, he decided to scroll through LinkedIn. That's when he saw her. Chinonso is founder and CEO of a fast-rising consulting firm, looking radiant in her profile photo, speaking at events, winning awards, leading teams. He stared at the screen stunned. She looked nothing like the woman he had left behind. She looked even more beautiful now, confident, powerful, at peace. He couldn't help himself. He sent her a message. Hey Chinonso. I know it's been a long time. I've been thinking about you. I'd love to talk, maybe catch up. I miss our conversations. Hope you're doing well. He waited. No reply. He sent another message 2 days later. I just want to say I'm sorry. For everything. I messed up. You didn't deserve how I treated you. Still silence. Nnamdi didn't know that Chinonso had seen the messages. She read them quietly, her face calm, her heart steady. But she didn't feel the need to reply. There was nothing to say. She had healed. She had grown. She had built a life so full that his absence no longer left a space. Meanwhile, Nnamdi sat with his regrets, finally realizing what he had thrown away. He left her because he thought she was boring. Now he saw her everywhere, on his screen, in articles, in business talks. Chinonso didn't need revenge. She had success. And sometimes silence is the loudest response. Chinonso saw the messages from Nnamdi, every single one of them. The first one made her pause for a second. The name alone brought back a flood of memories, but not the kind that hurt anymore. Just memories like old furniture in a room you no longer live in. She read his apology slowly, quietly, then locked her phone and went back to work. She didn't reply. Not because she was bitter. Not because she was angry. But because she had outgrown that version of herself, and the part of her that once needed his attention. Nnamdi kept trying. Messages came in days apart. One-liners. Regret-filled paragraphs. Even a voice note, his voice low and full of fake humility, trying to sound sincere. She deleted it without listening till the end. He didn't know the woman she had become. She was no longer the girl who begged for love or stayed awake wondering why she wasn't fun enough. She didn't need closure. She didn't need his guilt. And she definitely didn't need to prove anything. Her life now was louder than any reply she could ever type. The company was booming. She was invited to speak at leadership panels, mentor young women in business, and partner with global brands. Her office walls had plaques. Her inbox had opportunities. Her calendar was full of purpose. And on the rare days when she thought about the past, she smiled because it no longer hurt. In fact, she was grateful. If Nnamdi hadn't walked away, maybe she would have never found her fire. Maybe she would have stayed stuck in smallness. Now her silence wasn't cold. It was golden. She didn't block him. She didn't curse him out. She didn't type a single word. Because when your piece is louder than their apology, you don't have to explain yourself. Chinonso had won. Not with revenge, but with rising. And sometimes the real flex is saying nothing at all. Adaeze couldn't sleep the night she found out who Chinonso really was. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. How had she not noticed earlier? How had she missed the signs, the name, the calm voice, the quiet power that filled every room Chinonso entered? The truth hit her like cold water. She was now working for the very woman she once mocked. The woman she had taken Nnamdi from. The woman she thought wasn't good enough. And now Chinonso was her boss. Every morning after that, Adaeze walked into the office a little more quietly. She avoided eye contact at first. Guilt clung to her like perfume, strong, inescapable. She expected cold treatment, maybe even punishment. But it never came. Instead, Chinonso treated her like everyone else, firm but fair. No shade. No silent revenge. Just pure professionalism. That confused Adaeze more than anything. One day after a strategy meeting, Chinonso asked Adaeze to stay behind. Her heart thudded. She braced for the worst. But Chinonso looked up from her notes and said, "You have potential. You just need more structure and focus. I can help with that if you're open to learning." Adaeze blinked, unsure what to say. "I don't mix personal with business," Chinonso continued, her voice steady. "What happened in the past is done. Here we work. We grow. That's all." Adaeze nodded slowly, her throat tight. In that moment, she saw the difference. Chinonso wasn't just a boss. She was a woman who had healed, risen, and chosen grace over bitterness. Week by week, Chinonso began to mentor her. She gave feedback, recommended online courses, and challenged her to think bigger. Adaeze worked harder than ever, partly out of respect, and partly out of shame. The shift was clear. Once upon a time, Adaeze felt like the winner. Now she looked up to the woman she once looked down on. And Chinonso? She didn't need an apology to do the right thing. Because real power doesn't scream or punish. It teaches. It leads. The glass doors swung open and Chinonso walked into the boardroom like she owned it, because now she did. Heads turned. Executives straightened up. Everyone in that high-level meeting knew who she was: the CEO, the powerhouse, the woman whose name now carried weight in the industry. Her heels clicked against the polished floor, sharp and sure, each step a quiet echo of everything she had overcome. Right behind her was Adaeze, carrying Chinonso's files and notes. She moved quickly, eyes low, no longer the loud, confident girl she used to be. Now she was the assistant. Respectful. Focused. Quiet. As Chinonso took her seat at the head of the table, Adaeze gently placed the files in front of her, then stepped back. Their eyes didn't meet. They didn't need to. The message was already clear. This was no longer the girl Nnamdi left behind. This was no longer the boring woman people laughed at. Chinonso had become everything they thought she'd never be, and more. She led the meeting with grace and clarity, outlining strategies, assigning roles, and offering bold ideas that left the room nodding in agreement. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight. She didn't brag. She didn't rub anything in. She didn't need to. Her life now was the clapback. As the meeting ended and people started packing up, Chinonso stood, thanked everyone, and walked out without once looking back at Adaeze. Not out of pride, but because there was simply nothing left behind her worth turning around for. Her story had come full circle. And this was her victory, quiet, powerful, and unforgettable.